And we are back, and in this video I am talking about positioning strategies. I am going to break down the elements of a successful positioning strategy, show you why your current strategy isn't working, and give you one way you can generate amazing ideas for your product immediately, giving you an upper hand and leaving your competition behind. So if you don't know how to compete with your competitors, if you don't know how to win in the market you're in, if your strategy, if your marketing, if your sales aren't working, this episode is for you. Enjoy. When you have a clear strategy, a clear positioning strategy, this acts as sort of like a roadmap for your product. The strategy shows where you play and how you're gonna win with the product you have in the market that you're in. Your product positioning strategy sort of fills in the gaps for the following positioning statement. We are going to make our product different because these customers need this and can't get it in the current market. You know, they need this in their lives, they need this in their companies, they need it to make their jobs to be done a bit easier. So for example, we are going to make our new CRM easy to use because small companies need this and are prepared to pay for it. And now it's simple. You know how to market your CRM, you know how to develop your CRM, you know how to price your CRM as well. You have your product roadmap ahead of you because you know you need to say it's easy to use, you know to market it as an easy to use product, you know that you need to actually develop it, you need to make it user-friendly, easy to use, and you know that you need to price it lower than the competitors because you're working with the small companies and they don't have, you know, the enterprise money. Now let's figure out how to do a successful product positioning strategy, shall we? A successful product positioning strategy, in my mind, consists of two key elements. The first one is the mindset. And the second one is the technical part, the execution. If your current product strategy isn't working, if you don't know how to beat your competition, if you don't know how to grow, you see the competitors are getting much more traction than you and better results than you, better engagement on social media. If your current strategy isn't working, it's very possible that one of these two elements isn't working or the two elements are not aligned. So either your mindset is wrong or your positioning is wrong. Now let's take a look at both elements. The mindset is all about where your strategy is coming from. Your strategy needs to come from a safe space. You will very rarely craft a successful product strategy when you're in a panic mode, reacting to something that is outside of your control, when you're running out of money, when you're reacting to something that happened on the market. Because when we're in a panic mode, we can only think about ourselves. And to come up with a successful strategy, you really need to think about your customers, your audience. How can you help them? How can you make their lives better? So you need to be in a safe space. You need to be comfortable. You need to be confident. I do most of my strategies for my clients while walking or running in the woods, possibly during the weekend, because that's when my mind is in the best possible space to think about strategy. While talking to Matthias, a friend of mine who is really good at strategies, he said, as a founder, you need to have at least a day in the week blocked off just for strategies. You need to have a time where you're not disturbed by the next phone call or the next meeting. And I know that life in a startup can be hectic, but this can be as easy as going for a hike on a Sunday morning. Okay, so once you have the headspace and the clarity to create a good positioning or any strategy for that matter, let's now take a look at the technical part, so the actual positioning. One important thing about your positioning strategy comes from Alariz, who said you can't go head to head with the market leader. You can go around, you can go under, you can go above, but never head to head. And one thing I see teams do all the time is just copying competitors' features. But that basically just guarantees that you are staying behind, right? If you're copying something, if you're copying somebody, if you're copying somebody's features, you're just staying behind them all the time, trying to catch up, but never really succeeding. Just take a look at Spotify and Tidal, right? Tidal, they're both the same app, right? So they both provide music streaming for you. And Tidal looks exactly the same as Spotify. The UX is exactly the same. The song list is the same size. It has the same Bluetooth functionalities. Everything else is exactly the same. Yet they're lagging behind Spotify because Spotify just, tries new things, experiments quicker. They're not trying to copy anybody. They're just out there brainstorming what could be their next big thing, their next big feature. And so Tidal really became known as the worst version of Spotify because they're always behind in development. They're always behind in tests. They're always behind in experiments. They are always behind in mentality. Two exactly the same products, but a couple of months ago, in December, everybody was talking about Spotify because Spotify released the yearly wrap-up, not Tidal. Tidal will probably release it in 2023. So don't just copy competitors' features. It guarantees you staying behind. It guarantees you staying second. It guarantees you that you'll never beat your competitor. What you can do instead is you can find examples from other industries, good examples from the industry leaders from other industries, and adapt them to your industry. For example, let's say that companies in B2C just now started using influencer marketing as part of their marketing approach, and they're getting some good traction. They're getting some good results with the influencers. How can your B2B company do the same? How can you position your product as the authority and gain traction along the way by using influencers? And you start tinkering with this idea and find that consultants in B2B are very similar to what influencers are in B2C. Consultants have their audience, their followers, and you can use consultants to gain access to these followers. So now thinking about it, you can actually work with consultants to get to your audience, right? So you can, for example, sponsor their podcasts. You can connect with consultants and get invited to talk on their podcasts or work with them in any other way. And now you have access to the consultants' followers. And now you have a new channel, right? You have one path that's gonna bring results. Obviously you need to test this, but you have figured out a way to position your product deliberately in front of your audience using a channel that most B2B companies, so most of your competitors, just don't use. Now grab another idea, make another path, make 5 of them. How can you reach your target audience? How can you improve your messaging? How can you position your product deliberately so your customers will get it, will understand it, and that's your positioning strategy. Having a positioning strategy is like having a map full of paths, and you obviously need to test which ones are worth following, but you have a plan, you have a roadmap, and you have a strategy that's gonna help you achieve something meaningful with your product. Hope you enjoyed that one. Now, is there something that I missed? If I missed something you're interested in, do ask a question through the comments. Otherwise, like the video, and I'll see you next time. May your customers love you and understand your product.